What's up, sons? It's Blind Run with Son of a Tech once again, and today we're going to be taking a look at Project Storm Shadow. It's dubbed that by its owner, who is a fellow YouTuber, and you can check him out at the Broham Nation. He does a lot of streaming of video games. Mostly he focuses on hired ops as well as Escape from Tarkov, which is coming out here shortly. He does have alpha access and will be having beta access and plans on doing a lot of streaming of that game. So if you're interested in that game, go check it out. This video is going to be us building a system that's hopefully going to get him to the point of being able to play it and play it well. I'm talking like 1080p 60 FPS, and our budget is about $600, and we're going to go over the parts here in just a second. So with that kind of low budget, I decided that what we needed to do was go ahead and go through some old parts that I had. And since that was kind of the start of everything, it was mainly going into my closet and picking things piece by piece and seeing how much stuff I could put together right away. Now, I had an old case, but I didn't want to put it in that, and we'll talk about why here in a second. But let's start with the heart, which is going to be the motherboard, which I had an ASUS P8Z77 Pro Thunderbolt motherboard that was just previously in 2016 my test bench with the 3770K. However, unfortunately I didn't have a 3770K anymore because I kind of busted it attempting to delit it. You can check that out here. However, I did have a couple more successful attempts at deliting processors, and one was an i5-2400 and the other was an i5-3450. Now, while you don't really need to go ahead and delit either one of these per se because their temperatures are just fine and they're not technically overclockable, we did go ahead and do it for practice, but we had that option of putting in the i5-3450, which is what I went with because that was the best processor I had to put into this system. Now, the RAM is actually red, and I know it's a bummer. I'm going to state this. I do have some blue RAM, but it's only 8GB kit, and I wanted to have him have a 16GB kit because Escape from Tarkov is going to have a requirement of 8 with a recommended of 16, so we wanted to hit that 16GB of RAM, and so we have the G.Skill. It's going to be clocked at 1600 megahertz. Now, the drives we can kind of gloss over. We just have an OCZ. It's a 128GB SSD, and then we have a 500GB black Western Digital drive. He does have a couple of other hard drives and another SSD that he was going to put in later himself from his old rig, and I'm not sure exactly what those are. Now, it is nice to go ahead and get a laptop style drive. If you're looking at doing a budget and you're building in a case like this, it's kind of fun to still put that on top. And the case we're speaking of course, is going to be none other than the NZXT S340. Now, there's a couple reasons for this. A, it's the best price with the most features, and B, it was readily available at a local retailer. So I was able to go ahead and run to this local retailer and pick up some of the parts that we needed to fill the build out with. These parts included the case, as well as the power supply, which we went with a Thermaltake 650 watt. It does have a 2-year warranty, and it's not rated, but it should be enough power for this system. And with the 2-year warranty, it's kind of enough to get us by until he upgrades, because he does want to upgrade in the relatively near future, and we'll have to do another video for that. The only other thing I picked up is lights. Now, this was one of those things where I was out of lights at my house. I usually keep some strips of RGB, and I just had to pick something up. Unfortunately, no retailer had any RGB lighting, so I was, though, however, able to find some strips of white LEDs, albeit at not really like a fantastic price. I believe they came out to like $15 a piece, so it was like $30 for non-RGB LEDs. Yeah. Always try to keep those in stock if you're building systems like me, because that is no fun biting the bullet on that. But I really wanted to clean everything up because this is a system that I feel like he's going to keep building into this case. So whatever upgrades we do, he will have a nice case with nice lighting that we can go ahead and upgrade in. I didn't want to just go over there with a black kind of box and go super budget and then try to upgrade the parts, especially since we are already only at the budget of $600. So what did we spend those $600 on? Well, of course, we went ahead and we spent about $200 on the case, the lights, and the power supply, and that does include sales tax because I live here in Texas, and that was the $200. Now we have about $400 left over, and that was all primarily put into the graphics card. Now, while I know you can buy some cheaper GTX 1060s than the EVGA super clocked version, I had a EVGA super clocked in stock because I was using it for all of my benchmarking, and I wanted to get this to him next day pretty much. I think it was the very next day because it was the weekend and I wanted to get the build done. So we did put that in there, and that comes out to about $289. So that was about $300, and we had 120 left over. So, well, 110 left over. So essentially all of the used parts that I had left over, I sold to him for about $110, and that includes the motherboard, the memory, the CPU cooler, which was the Antec, the hard drives, the SSD, and the hard drive. At the end of the day, the motherboard did have a Windows 10 Pro license, so we didn't have to worry about that. And we did go with Windows 10 Pro, and we loaded all the software on it, and we just ran a single Firestrike benchmark. This is because I did upgrade his PC earlier in 2016, and he had the he had the FX 6300 AMD CPU, and we went ahead and upgraded his R7 260 or R7 270, and we upgraded that to a GTX 770, which was a pretty big jump. And we did the test, and he went from about a 4,000 score up to about a 6,000 score. And with this system that we currently put together, he's gone from a 6,000 score up to an 11,000 score. Now, another note on the delidded CPU is that it does overclock on a Z board, albeit with the base clock. So that went up, and we were able to get him to a boost clock of 4 gigahertz, which is a decent overclock, but nothing like, say, a K i5 from the same gen would have. However, at this point now, he does have an upgrade path to where he can go to the i7 3770K, which we can pick up used still on Amazon for a couple $100, and he would be pretty much right on par with any of the later kind of i5s and so on and so forth. So I think he has a pretty decent upgrade path that wouldn't cost him a ton of cash. A couple things I would like to do to clean up the case. Of course, I would like to go with some sleeve cables, or maybe just some cable extensions for now. I think white would look really good, or blue, like the light blue. I would also like to find some DDR3 that is blue, which would be kind of cool, or white, something else other than the red, because that does throw it way off. And that's about it as far as like aesthetically where I would like to go. Of course, maybe some RGB LEDs just to have them so he could change the color if he wants to. I personally prefer the white. If I'm going to go with white LEDs, I do prefer having just straight white LEDs than using RGB to do it, because it does have a truer white color. So I don't know. If he's going to want to stick with white, I'd say just stick with what he has. If he wants to change color, then we'll go to RGB LED, and we'll kind of make that decision when we're at that bridge ready to cross it. Hope you guys enjoyed the build. Of course, coming up here on March 2nd, we'll be checking out Ryzen, and we're going to be having a whole bunch of builds going on for that. I know we have quite a few people in our Discord chat there talking about it, and we'll be having them talk on the forums over at sonofatech.com. So if you want to check either one of those out, please stop by, come say hi. We'll say hi back, show your build, and tell us what you're currently working on. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe down below, and I will see you next Tuesday.